And this Northwestern matchup appears to be a mismatch, and Vegas considers it a mismatch at 13.5 points. But I bring the transition in here because Northwestern, they're always underrated. And sure, they were awful last year and they were awful 3 years ago, but most seasons under Pat Fitzgerald, they're going to a bowl game. They're challenging for the West. They've won the West twice in the last 4 years. They're never ranked preseason. I looked at this the other day. Never been ranked in the preseason under Pat Fitzgerald. He's finished ranked 5 times. So they just are always under the radar. So I expect, despite the personnel gap, for Northwestern to show up and play a pretty good ball game.
Well, Northwest, they usually start the season really slow. They usually start the season spending their first 2 or 3 games trying to figure out what their personnel can do and how they can play football. So I think that goes in Nebraska's favor. But the other thing is who was it? Mike Hinkwitz was their defensive coordinator for like 1635 or something. And he's gone. And now I believe they have Jim O'Neill at defensive coordinator. And I don't think that a guy that's been there 2 years is going to have the same defense that a guy that's been there for, decades. He was there. He coached 50 years. I know that.
It was something crazy. Yeah. Like 50 years, 52.
And I think he was excellent at figuring out what his personnel could do and what he could do to take advantage of them. So that's where I think Northwestern is really going to have a problem. And then, you always have to figure out who's going to score points for them. And in the past few years, people haven't had to worry about that. They're just like, well, we don't actually have to score points ourselves. Nebraska will just give us the ball. And it's like they'll score for us. And, that's been kind of a problem over the last, in the Scott Frost era, certainly.
You say that, John, and it just hit me the other day in talking through all the mistakes last year that the season started with a special teams gaffe with, who was it? It was Cam Taylor-Britt, I think, that tried to field a punt at like the 2-foot line that turns into a safety, that turns into a 9-0 deficit because then the safety turns into a short kick and the whole deal. Then, here we are 3 months later and they've got a 2-score lead on Iowa and they're getting a punt blocked in the fourth quarter that leads to a comeback and they lose that game.
Yeah.
So
you're just starting this out by bleeding me.
Oh, sorry. I know we wanted to look ahead.